Good morning, traders. Today is Friday, May 28th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, what are we looking at here today? So yesterday, the market basically just balanced at higher prices. We had a rotational day. Okay, I was looking at the highs from Tuesday as a potential balance area high. The market traded its way exactly up to that level to a tick, and then found resistance there and started to push down. And then it pulled all the way back down here, creating a very poor low here in the M period. Okay. Literally what happened if you were watching the market, it was bizarre to see, but it happened in an instant. The M period sold very methodically, very slowly, and then out of nowhere dropped down in the last 2 minutes of the day. It dropped down, and then right at the closing bell, it got to the closing price. Then the end period printed, and then the second that the end period started to print, it pushed all the way back up. In a matter of minutes, it just pushed all the way back up, completely engulfing almost the entire day. Okay, that's very bizarre. You don't see that often. Obviously, it was possible because there was such thin volume yesterday, so it wouldn't have taken much for a big player to push the market around. So the overnight market, they opened, higher than they were the previous day. They closed right here, so they opened higher, and they felt bullish about that. They felt like we retraced as much as we needed to, and so they just balanced at higher prices. Okay, so today we are going to open above yesterday's range. Okay, so there's going to be a gap up. That will instantly repair the poor high, but then we'll be watching the high from yesterday to see if it acts as support. So the first thing on a gap higher that we're looking for is a gap fill. That's the market trading from the opening price down to yesterday's high here at 42.10. I think that's very, very likely today due to the fact that the overnight was just balancing, right? It was just rotational. So the overnight was essentially barely able to just accept these slightly higher prices. They just barely accepted getting above that balancing area that we've been in for this week. Okay. So there's not a bunch of enthusiasm in this. So my thoughts are, first off, they're basically 100% net long. So we're probably going to have a counter auction, okay, that's going to pull us back. And why wouldn't that try to fill the gap, right? So the first thing I'm looking for is the gap fill, the market to sell down and fill the gap. I'll know it's not going to do that if it immediately pushes higher and doesn't come back down. If it tries to come back down and fill the gap and it can't, it finds support before it gets down here. Either of those scenarios are what we call a gap and go, and they are extremely bullish for continuation for the rest of the day. Okay, so the first thing I'm looking for is that gap fill. If we get down to yesterday's high, I'm looking for the market to find support. It doesn't have to find it right at this number exactly, but just somewhere in this general area, basically above yesterday's value. If we started to pull back down into the value area, pull back down into this node for any real amount of time, I would expect that this will be a look above and fail of yesterday's range, and that will pull us back into yesterday's range. Pulling us back into yesterday's range would make it a look above and fail of the larger balancing area that we've been in for the week. So what are the balance rules? The balance rules tell us if you look above and fail in a balancing area, you often trade to the opposite end of balance. Now, these rules become more and more potent the longer you're in the balancing area. So we've now been in this balancing area for 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So it's much more potent that if we look above it and we fail, okay, well, the gap fill's happening instantly. Okay, there you go. Didn't even get to finish my spiel, and they already filled the gap. So now we're looking for support up in here. This is what I'm talking about. If we don't get it, if we immediately start to sell down, we get into this value, this little node of volume that we traded at the upper end of value here yesterday. If we get into this and if we come down, we get a single, candlestick that pops in and then it pops back out. That's okay. But if we start spending some time in here, I will be very bearish for a trade down to the opposite end of balance down here at 41.7950. Okay, just because I've seen it so many times before. We've also got that poor low, that very poor low that we left behind yesterday. And so that likely also needs repair. So that would be a second reason to trust the look above and fail. Okay. It looks like that might be what the market's setting us up for. Again, we can find support in here, so I'm not bearish yet. I'm bearish if we fail to find support. Quiet start to the morning here in the chat. Happy Friday, y'all. Wake up. Wake on up. Wake on up. Wake on up. Wake on up. That was the first thing in the morning song. That just happened. Gianfranco, good morning to you. Jose, good morning to you. Naif is here. Good to see you, brother. Welcome. News Blip is with us. Good morning to you. Marco is here. Good morning. Shane is with us. Good to see you. Miles is back. Yeah, so Miles, that's what I was talking about with the look above and fail. If the market, I don't want to get too like literal with it, where it's like the second that it pulls down into yesterday's range, it means it's going to fall all the way. It's a little early to get super bearish about it. But yeah, if we can't find support very quickly in yesterday's range and push back above it, odds favor a rotation to the opposite end. Okay. Arthur is here. Good morning to you. Parlin is back. Good morning, my friend. Jose, thank you for the subscribe. Design Knob is with us. Asif is back. Good to see you, brother. Welcome. Phoenix is here. RK Leon, good morning to you. John is here. Rob. Good to see you, brother. Welcome. Apico is back. Good morning to you. John Hung, welcome. Nor Trading, back with us. Good to see you, brother. Welcome. Leighton is with us. John Doe is back. John Doe. Must I sing it, or can it be like a pre-programmed thing? I don't think I would have volunteered to start every morning with singing. Richard, good to see you. Welcome. Olerin, good morning to you. Manny is here. Good to see you. Welcome. Ampkey, welcome to you as well. Okay, so we are starting to build support right here at yesterday's high. Let's see if that can hold. It's not good taper at the low. Also, the market traded up to it before I got a chance, but we do have the base of these single prints from 510, which would act as resistance. Getting above those, coming back down and finding support would be bullish. Still a bit early on the market internals. They're settling in here. John Doe. I tell you what, bro. Send me an email at ahoy@piratraders.io and send me some videos of you dancing, and I will sing something to correspond with those videos, and we'll play it here on the live stream. But I'm going to sing song. Like, you have to dance first, and I'll make up the song after. This is the way we do it. All right, pushing back down into yesterday's range. Still looking for that support. Oh, John, I want it all. Okay. Running Man into Waltz, into the one where people lay on the ground like a worm and squirm around. I want all of them. Give it to me. Okay, once again, finding support, but not great because the taper is terrible. Let's pop over real quick and take a look at the Qs. Oh boy. Once again, look at how clean the balancing area is on the NQ. It's just like textbook. I mean, look at that. It's completely flat at the top. That's so insane. So yeah, once again, same thing with the NQ. Their overnight was not as bullish as ours. They just rotated inside of yesterday's range, which has been the trend lately, right? The ES has been a little more bullish. But again, if you look above and fail of this range, which you could call literally where you're at right now, this is the top of the range. If you can't get above it and you pull back in, you increase the odds of trading to the opposite end of the range. You've also got a poor low below you from yesterday as well. Man, both markets left poor lows behind yesterday. Those will be repaired at some point. Yep, the 525 low, that's the low of the value area. I mean, of the rotational, the balance area. Man, there's so many areas. It's early. It's Friday. It's the bottom of one of the areas. Yeah, so that's your target if you can't get back above this high. But if you do, it's the breakout, right? The breakout of balance leads to excess. That's the big push higher. So a lot riding on this. Okay, so once again, I don't love the taper at the low here, but we did find support right at yesterday's high. Look where that line is, the biggest red node right at the high. So this is the first sort of bullish indication that we might have a gap and go. Or a gap fill and go. Okay, if we start to pull back down here into yesterday's range once again and we start to get lower, then I would be afraid that that push higher was just to fill the stops, you know, just to catch everybody who was short, get their stops filled, and then now push lower. So still looking for the market to find support here. Okay, so now on the NQ, we looked above the balancing area and we failed. So that increases the odds. The market needs to rotate to the opposite end of balance, which is at 38. Let me zoom in a bit. It's 13,608 is the opposite end of balance on the NQ. Your poor low from yesterday is at 13,644. Okay. Back to the ES. Yeah, it seems they tricked us with that push higher. They were just trying to fill stops. Okay, so once again, if we get into this node of volume from yesterday and we don't find support here, also the target becomes the opposite end of balance on the ES, which is 41.79. Also got the poor low from yesterday at 41.94. Internals don't look bearish, though, just for the record. So we may find support in this node. If they turn on us and they start trending down, then expect the opposite end of balance for sure. No, the bad taper is a sign that the two-way auction process didn't get to come to a good end. So it's basically a sign that like somebody forced the move, forced the support at the low. Um, and so we just assume that if it was, I mean, I say somebody, I don't necessarily mean one person, but you know what I mean. The buyers who bought at that level are probably wrong, right? Because they didn't let the two-way auction come to a clean end. Speaking of taper, this is good taper on the low. I don't love having less than 100 contracts, but 2,000, just a little less than 1,400, and then 36. That's good taper. And we got it literally right when we got into that node of volume from yesterday. So I'm keeping an eye on the ticks here. I'm waiting to see if they're going to tell us the story. If they keep finding support at the 0 line, then we'll probably get back above yesterday's range and push higher. But if they start to turn red on us and trend down, there'll be more selling. Okay, so the question becomes now was what was support before yesterday's high? Is that now resistance? Obviously, it goes without saying the volume is super thin this morning, like yesterday. Yeah, Nathan, it's the holiday weekend. That is the explanation for the small amount of volume. The little baby, cute little baby volume we're trading today. Little 36 little contracts at the low. Little 600 contracts down here. 14 contracts at the high. All right, 2 minutes to the B period. Captain Axelrod in the house. What's up? All right, well, we're back above yesterday's range. We printed the D period. The B period. We pulled value a little bit higher. So once again, the question becomes, if the B period pulls back down, does this now become support? Support that holds? Let's see. Yeah, design up. It's being hard on us this morning. This market is not making it easy. And I've talked about this so many times on this channel. It's so frustrating when you're right on a level like this that's so important. That, like, if it becomes support, could lead to a massive breakout to an upside, and if it doesn't act as support, will probably lead to a massive sell-off to the opposite end of balance. Like, while you're here watching the market trade through this level over and over again, it's a fucking nightmare always. Like, you're just like, pick. I want to be positioned for it. But that's when you have to just step back and say, okay, I'm going to wait until, like, we definitely start getting below this volume here. Then I'm more certain that the market's going to keep selling. Otherwise, you're forced to just keep taking trades opposite direction. Oh, it's going to go long. Nope. Oh, it's going to go short. Nope. Oh, nope, long. So they got me twice this morning. The first time we passed down into this range, we started to get resistance at the high. I went short. Then they stopped me out. Then we pulled all the way back down to here, pulled back up. I went short again, and then they stopped me out a second time. So it's very, very rare that I make the same trade and it goes against me wrong twice in a row. So now I'm going to step aside and wait till there's more certainty here. does kind of feel rotational. It shouldn't do that, though. I don't think the market will just rotate in a super tight. There you go. Well, it's not holding a support. We're starting to potentially build that downtrend in the ticks. But yeah, as I was about to say, I don't think we're going to get something like the overnight where we just kind of balance in a really tight range here. It makes sense in terms of it being a Friday before a 3-day weekend and there being low volume and stuff. But just, again, how critical a balance area high is as a deal or no deal level, we should push away from it one direction or another today. All right, well, we may have to wait for one time framing to get some kind of signal of a direction for today. If somehow the B period stays inside the A period like this, that will likely lead to rotation, and the market will just grind around here for a while. But to me, that seems less likely. To me, it's starting to feel like a very slow look above and fail that wants to push lower. But there's just so little participation. There's just nobody doing business. So with such little volume and such little business, you might just find support right here and rotate right back up. So it's tough to say. Somebody in the comments said the best trade today might be no trade. Could be. But if we get the one time framing lower, if we can get the B period 2 ticks below the A period, I will go bearish and start looking for shorts. But just with a very tight stop. Small size, tight stop. All right, Jeff. That's a great send-off, brother. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Chris, I can, but I always find whenever people ask me to explain the internals, I always find that like it's not helpful the way that I explain them, because it's all very vague, and I don't have the terminology for it the way I do for market profile. But essentially, yeah. So these four right here, these make up the market internals. It's the breadth. It's the advancers versus decliners, and the ticks. And they're all basically just measuring, how many people are going long versus how many people are going short in the market. And they just measure it in different ways. These two, the top two, are much slower. So they kind of show you like stronger trends that are happening throughout the day. The advancers, the breadth is the slowest. The advancers versus decliners is the next slowest. But then the ticks are very fast. The ticks are happening almost instantly. And you can sometimes actually catch moves in the ticks right before they happen in the price. So these two at the bottom here, these are the ticks. The one on the left is for the NYSE, and the one on the right is for the NASDAQ. So these are measuring the actual shares being traded in the exchange, essentially. So I look for so these two I barely look at. I just kind of keep an eye on them to see, are they trending? Are they above zero? Just a quick glance. I don't put too much thought into it. But with these two down here, I watch very closely. I watch for trends. When they start to build trend lines, you have to ignore the wicks of the candles and focus on the bodies. When the bodies start to form a trend, like here you can see in the ticks on the NASDAQ, I'd be willing to expect, if you go back and look at this day, the market was selling off and selling off and selling off for hours here, right? So when you start to see trends, lower highs, higher lows, you can recognize patterns that often correlate with price. There's also the ticks ending or below, or closing above or below the zero line. So if they close above the zero line, that's slightly bullish. Below the zero line, slightly bearish. And that's what these little arrows that you see here, that's just a plugin that automatically lets me know, did it close above or below the zero line. So again, that's just sort of a thing. If you're looking at your ticks and throughout the day, most of them seem to close above or below, you're probably more bullish or bearish. Whereas if it seems like you have about the same amount, you're probably rotational. Yeah, that's about the best I can do explaining the internals. And then, of course, this is like one of the most powerful tools that I have discovered in intraday trading on the ES is the 15-minute candles. You get the regular trading hours only. You can't include the overnight. That's why I use the SPX, because it only shows regular trading hours. So it has to be only the 15-minute candles for the regular trading hours. But then you just put a 20 simple moving average on it, and it just works like magic. Whoops, don't want to do that. I can't scroll back and show you the previous times, but it works like magic, that 20 moving average. It'll come down. First, it'll act as support. If the market pushes through it, it'll act as resistance. Other than that, almost every decision I make is based on what I'm seeing in the profile. It's based on volume, time, and tempo. Okay, so it looks like we might get that one time framing lower here in the B period. Okay, the market is one time framing lower. Internals are trending lower, and we had a look above and fail. So I'm going to go ahead and change my position to bearish. Once again, I'm not going to assume the trend just yet, because we've learned from bitter experience not to assume a trend in the first 30 minutes of the day, or the first hour of the day. But if this continues into the C period, I will assume the trend down. Let the slow grind to repair that poor low start. This be the first target to the downside on the look above and fail. But I do think we're going to very slowly, painfully grind down there, like we very slowly, painfully ground down to here. Yeah, designed up. Thank God for a direction. Thank God for some signals. Got the one time framing, a signal that actually worked out. All right, so printing the C period here, we created these single prints above us. Those single prints will likely need to be backfilled before the market's ready to go lower. And it looks like that was the first order of business for the C period. So now we're looking for resistance, likely the halfback here, if not into the node right at the high here. Okay, what was acting as support now becomes resistance. Still have one single print left in the B period. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. For those of you that aren't aware, maybe have been gone for the last few days, I'm switching up the strategy now and only doing the first hour of trade here on the YouTube for the public. If you guys want to continue for the rest of the day with me, you're going to have to go to piratetraders.com piratetraders.io and sign up for the brigade. If you are a member of the brigade, all you have to do is go to piratetraders.io/live. And then in about 5 minutes, don't go right now, but in about 5 minutes, go there and just click this button. If you get like a blue banner across here, you just need to log into the account up here in the upper left corner. You log in, you come back to the live page, you click this little green button, and it should take you to the private live stream. All right, once again, guys, if you're in the brigade, wait about 5 minutes to do that. The rest of you, have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I look forward to seeing you here on Tuesday. Terrible Tuesday. All right, we'll see you then. Thank you so much.